All right, guys, so today we are going to be talking about 3 things that you should know to get hired as a video editor. Now, I've talked to a lot of other editors, and a common issue that a lot of people run into, I find, when trying to get hired as a video editor is that they feel like there's just too much competition out there, or it's just too hard to stand out. And a lot of people even say that, I don't know how to contact people to hire me. Who do I contact? Well, if you follow and implement these 3 steps that I'm going to share as a video editor myself, then you'll most definitely be a step closer to getting hired as a full-time editor. Now, I personally am a filmmaker, and I create primarily a lot of product commercials for companies, but I also work as an editor for a big name YouTuber as well, amongst other editing and filmmaking projects. But one of the main reasons I got hired for that YouTube editing position is because I applied these 3 steps to my own business as a filmmaker and video editor. So without further ado, let's hop into these 3 tips right now. And let's start with tip number 1, which is paying attention to details. And this is super important because when someone is hiring you as an editor, they don't want you to edit the core of the video, not pay attention to the detail, and then have a back and forth with you for a week straight because they need a revision after revision on the little things like, for example, you forgetting to change the font of a title that they wanted in a specific font size. And, it's a small thing, but it's annoying for the client. And because of that small mistake, they have to email you the revision. Then you have to open up the project again. You have to change what they want changed, export it again, then send it again for review number 2. And all of that could have been avoided if you would have just paid attention to the details in the beginning and the direction given. So do your best to pay attention to the details, and it may seem small, but it makes you come off as a much better and more professional editor and just person. So now we're going to talk about tip number 2, which is my favorite tip, and this is understanding pacing and flow. Guys, if there is one tip more than any other tip that you take away from this video, please take this. Pacing and flow is literally so easy to implement, and it can be one of those things that separates you from the rookies to the pros. I actually remember when I first got hired for an editing job, it was a talking head interview video, and I cut the video like I was cutting an intense B-roll segment, which was terribly wrong. See, I needed to not be so set on the current editing trends that were happening at the time, of which I was. And what I needed to do was understand that it's an interview and not an energetic B-roll segment, and I needed to edit it accordingly. And what I also should have done if I had known at the time was to go and mentally take note of how the pacing and flow would be in an actual corporate interview setting, like in person, and then take that and cut the video with that realistic pacing and flow. So when you're editing and you're not sure if you're implementing good usage of pacing and flow, just take a step back, rewatch, listen, and think, does this sound natural or realistic? Does it feel natural and realistic? And if it doesn't feel natural or realistic, change it and make it feel more natural. And if it does, then perfect. You've got pacing and flow down. But remember that the best edits are when you can't tell the edits at all, because if it's perfectly cut and perfectly executed, then no hard cut or unnatural pacing and flow will distract you from the content. And that is what people are hiring editors for. That's what people who are hiring editors want. So now let's move on to our last tip, which is tip number 3. And this is a really important tip, so please don't skip it. And tip number 3 is organization. Now this is, as I mentioned, important, but it's also mainly for you as the editor, not so much for the client. For one of my clients, I'm actually typically editing 8 to 17 minute long videos, and a lot goes into those videos, a lot. And organization is the one thing that it really keeps me on track with those big projects, because editing can get so messy and confusing super quick if you let it. So for starters, you should have a separate hard drive to keep all your projects on. The Samsung T5 or the SanDisk SSD are great options. Next, inside the program that you're using, you should create bins or folders, again, depending on the editing software you use. And I like to personally create folders for music, audio, video, assets, and then basically put all the content in those bins accordingly. And then the final thing that I like to do is go through and name each clip, because I need to refer back to a lot of the certain clips, and I want to be able to find it fast. And guys, this literally takes me a total of like 10 to 20 extra minutes up front before I actually start the edit, but it saves me 3 times that later on when the edit starts to get big and I need to find stuff quickly. So don't listen to the people who say, oh, organization's not that important, just skip it. It is. It's important. Oh, and also I haven't talked about revisions yet. And likely you will have at least one set of revisions in your life as an editor. It's inevitable. And when you do, you will wish you organized the way I am talking about now, because having to find a specific 3-second piece inside of a 15-minute edit is literally like searching for a needle in a haystack if you are not organized. So to save yourself some time, to be more organized and just avoid a messy project, follow these organization steps that I gave you. Sadly, the time has come for me to let you guys go, but go implement these 3 steps I shared with you, and I can almost guarantee you that after some time, this will help you get hired as an editor. But remember, work is not just going to consistently fall into your lap. You need to go put yourself out there, post your work, do some free work as well. That's gotten me so many clients, and go reach out to businesses. That's a big thing as well. So if you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, I'm super stoked. Well, because that's actually the purpose, but also I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribed and gave this video a like. And if you're actually interested in learning more about becoming a proficient editor, I have a course for beginners who are interested in learning more about editing and learning how to edit inside of Premiere Pro, which is awesome. So all the questions that you feel like you can't find answers to as a beginner, I've tried my best to answer and help you in the course. So I'll definitely leave that in the first link below. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching.